Geeky Poetic podcast.
What can go wrong?
Will go wrong.
Like trying to film in a parking lot. Welcome to Geeking Poetic Podcast, everybody. We are in Vito's truck. It's another one of those. It's time for Geek Previews, where we talk about the movie that we literally just saw moments ago. We're not quite as cold as we were last time, but it's still pretty goddamn.
It is still pretty cold.
It's still pretty goddamn cold. I'm Larry.
I'm Vito.
I'm Megan.
Yeah. And so the movie that we just went to see was none other than Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, the last, supposedly last of the whole Skywalker saga in Star Wars. It's tough doing this spoiler-free, man. We're going to try to keep it as spoilerless as possible. It's tough. We will try not to give away anything too major for you guys out there. I think most stuff you can kind of glean from watching like the commercials and the trailers and things that have already kind of been out there. But I'm just going to start with Vito and go across like we normally do. So, Vito, what'd you think of this movie? Oh, just eh. So you didn't dislike it, but you didn't love it?
Correct.
Okay.
There's some scenes I was like, oh, this is really badass. And then there was like, wait, what? Wait, you're using those rules when you've never brought those rules into a Star Wars film before? Like the bullshit you played in the last movie?
Yeah, there's
Sorry,
definitely...
guys, I don't...
Yeah, there's definitely some of that. All right, Megan, what did you think of it?
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
But I think I mostly enjoyed it because on the way here you kind of gave me some warnings.
Yeah, I did.
So that made me forgive some of those rules that were broken. And like some of the, I don't know, I thought it was kind of fun and mysterious, the backstories. We're like, wait, how does he know how to do that? So clearly they all have a past.
This movie definitely is all about, one of the underlying themes of it is the past. And like everybody has a past. We get into, to some degree or another, the whole thing is about people's pasts. It's about Poe Dameron's past. It's about Rey's past. It's like everybody's got something, to do, some kind of little secret that comes out or something like that. In some ways, I liked it better than I thought I was going to like it. And then in other ways, well, you guys heard me. There was so many times. I was
oh
like,
my God.
I face-palmed multiple times during this movie. I was just like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, really? But most of that was little stuff. Most of that was like little bitty things, like, I guess this is kind of a spoiler. It's not a big deal. They don't play a big role or anything like that. You literally see them for like 3 seconds, but they had to throw Ewoks in there, and I was just like, why are there fucking Ewoks there?
It's bringing it all back from the past.
Yeah,
there's a lot of harkening back to old movies.
There were the sand people in there too.
I get in Jawas and stuff. Yeah, I get that. There was definitely stuff that is still very indicative of more modern, and by modern I mean from the prequels on, modern Star Wars stuff where it gets kind of goofy, cutesy. Where I was just like, oh.
There was a lot of us laughing out loud, which I don't think the filmmakers wanted us to laugh at, I think.
Yeah.
That one dude on that bus, okay.
I was like, I'm sure that was supposed to be kind of funny, but I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, or I don't know, man. There was a lot of things like that, a lot of the alien stuff, like with Aliens, where they had them talking, and I was just like, that's so goofy. Like, I don't like it when Star Wars gets goofy.
That is a major problem with the franchise for me.
It
Those
wasn't.
babies on that one planet.
Oh,
Yeah.
those babies, those Muppet baby things.
I was good without those.
That's what I'm talking. Like, that's the kind of shit that I'm like, okay, I could live without that. The important thing is the story. Now, what did you guys basically think of the story? What did you think of where they went with the whole, because obviously Rey is the main part of the story. Rey and Kylo / Ben Solo. What did you ultimately think of what they did with that? Because that seems to be the thing that a lot of critics and people who've seen this already are real divided on.
So maybe I missed something. I've only seen the second movie, or episode 8, like probably once.
Okay.
So I missed something about the big bad guy at the end. So I don't know if that got mentioned in the previous movie that I don't remember.
Okay. Well, I
And
think
that
we can talk about that because
Okay.
everybody knows it. But you talk about the Emperor.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's, everybody knows the Emperor's coming back. If you haven't watched a fucking teaser trailer or something like that, you probably shouldn't be watching this. All right.
Because I did not watch a trailer for this movie before watching it.
Right.
So.
And see, that's a problem. That's a problem. It shouldn't be a problem. Because people should be able to not watch fucking commercials and trailers and be able to go see the movie. That is a problem. Megan mentioned earlier that I kind of talked to her about stuff on the way here, and that I helped her a little bit with things. Now, I should explain for those that don't know, I am the spoiler. I don't necessarily...
Sequel man and spoiler man.
He is sequel man, meaning he prefers sequels over the originals, which is weird in and of itself. And then me, I'm just like fucking Debbie Downer because I love to go and spoil it. I won't spoil it for anybody else. I'm not one of those assholes. But I like to spoil it for myself. I'm too impatient. I'm too curious. It's like, no, I want to know what I'm going into. So I already knew the whole story of this movie. I had already read it all online. I knew what was going to happen. Honest to God, I'm glad I did because this is exactly the kind of movie that is exemplary of why I do that. Because the problem with this movie is there are so many things that get introduced or that happen or that get brought up that you go, wait, where the fuck did that come from? Like you just said, was I supposed to know about that? Even in the beginning crawl of this movie, it talks about a message has gone out across the universe that hearing this voice, blah, blah, blah. And I went, well, that never happened. That didn't really happen. You know what I mean? I get,
It happened in the time between 8 and 9.
I understand that, but you just threw that, normally you introduced that a little bit more in the previous movie.
At least like the last scene of the last movie, so you're like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and
right?
I don't remember anything quite like that happening in Last Jedi. Admittedly, it's been a while since I've watched Last Jedi.
There's a reason for that too, right?
Well, so here's the thing, and this is what I kind of explained to Megan, and some of this is my own theorizing about this. So as everybody knows, The Last Jedi was not done by J.J. Abrams, who did The Force Awakens. He wasn't unable to do The Last Jedi, so he passed the mantle down to Rian Johnson. That's a whole other discussion. Anybody who knows anything about it knows that Last Jedi is a polarizing movie. A lot of people hate that movie, and a lot of people dislike that movie because Rian Johnson very clearly strayed from what J.J. Abrams had set up a lot in The Force Awakens. They got J.J. Abrams back, and very clearly J.J. Abrams was faced with a task of going, okay, I need to A, do a sequel carrying on to this other dude's movie, but I also need to continue. I want to continue on with my story that I was originally planning on setting up here, and I got to figure out a way to make it work. That in and of itself is a task. Then, on top of that, the problem is a lot of people, you're going to see people talking about it, and a lot of reviews and critics have already said This movie has so much going on. There's so many things that have been crammed into this movie. It almost feels like it should have been 2 movies. And they're right. And my theory is because technically, this was 2 movies once upon a time. This contains information that JJ would have put in the second movie, would have put in Last Jedi, and then set up the events that happened in this movie. So instead, he had to figure out in 2.5 hours' time some way to cram all this information that fucking Rian Johnson didn't put in The Last Jedi and should have, but he didn't because he had his own other stupid-ass storyline that he was so much more worried about children with force powers on Canto Bight. Who cares? You know?
Fucking children.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Rian Johnson, no offense to him, but he was not the right person for that job. And clearly it showed because that movie, you know, it like I said, it's polarizing. Going into it kind of knowing that, I was a little bit more forgiving of how much stuff kind of got crammed down our throats and thrown in our faces that we were supposed to just sort of take as like, oh yeah, okay, we didn't know anything about that. We have no reason to, you know, especially when it comes to things like Rey's lineage.
Yeah, that one dude when he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, there was a guy.
In the theater,
It was
awesome.
It summed it all up. It summed it all up. Everybody in our theater, I think, was kind of probably feeling a lot of what we were feeling. And we're kind of like sitting there going, okay, well, this is good, but man, what is this going? And where did this come from? And then it gets to the point about midway through the movie where they get into Rey's lineage, and we're not going to say what that is. Some of you might know, some of you probably don't. There was a guy a few rows back from us that exclaimed out loud, he just went, what the fuck? And we all laughed. And
You have no idea what was said after that.
yeah, and he you know, that summed it up. You know, I knew already because I already know the story, but yeah.
I was starting to dawn on me. I was like, oh, and then like I said that, I was like, lost it.
I mean, and again, I don't necessarily have a problem with that plot device of her backstory, but it's just one of those things where there wasn't really enough build-up for it, you know, like, and I think there would have been more.
There was a lot of problem with build-up, just with deaths and all like that, and not having the balls to just go with what you put on screen and just reverse it.
Yeah.
Fucking 3 scenes later, or the next scene, literally.
To go back and forth, just keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah, and it's like, if you're going to do it, then just commit to it, man, and just let them die or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I did it more potent.
I guess. I didn't really have a problem with it, but I felt like it, more than anything, it just felt rushed. I didn't have a problem with the idea. It gets into a lot of mystical stuff. That's the other thing, is that
some fucking Wes Craven Nightmare on Elm Street bullshit
with the
physics and stuff,
with the Emperor and all that.
Yeah, and just where things can just magically end up in somebody's hand when they shouldn't.
Well, but they did kind of set up a little bit more in the other movies. He's talking about the fact that Rey and Kylo have that connection that we saw in the other movies, where they can almost it's almost like astral projection in a way, where they can like communicate and wherever they are, and then suddenly, because of their force connection, they can be like in 2 simultaneous places at once, to the point where they can even touch and hand something to another person. I didn't mind that so much. I don't understand the physics of it, but then again, it's the fucking Force. It's Star Wars, you know. This isn't Trek. I mean,
exactly what happened in Star Trek, guys.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
If it was Trek,
I thought it was kind of cool. I mean, they did introduce it in the second movie.
Okay, then that's probably another thing I missed from it, because I only saw that second one like once.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought but there's
the Bond thing. That was cool. Yeah, for sure.
Oh no, yeah, and I really like and I stand by what I said before. I really like the current characters, the new characters. I really like Poe. I really like Finn. I very much like more what they did with their characters in this movie than what they did in Last Jedi. Big time.
I liked Rose better in this movie than I did Last Jedi.
Rose was much better.
She grew on me. I didn't like her in Last Jedi at all.
Well, for one thing, you didn't have as much of her in this movie. They definitely they made her Rose's part a little bitty part. But they also made her, she was more mature and she, you know what I mean? Like, whereas in the other movies, she's almost like comedic, slapsticky, obnoxious, loud. No, they gave her some class and dignity in this movie, and that was cool. I guess, like, one of the biggest problems I have with this, it kind of goes to what you were talking about the whole astral projection kind of thing, but just in general, there's a lot of stuff that I was like, wait a minute, okay, Jedis can do that now? Sith can do that now? There was just a lot of things where I was just like, you're kind of fucking up your own lore and Star Wars rules and everything, where I'm like, that character should not have that much strength to suddenly, like, you know...
Well, he pulled from multiple sources.
Yeah, even so, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it.
It was a little much.
Yeah, and then he turns around 5 minutes later and he starts fighting somebody else with it, but he can't take them down. But he has enough power to be able to, like, blow up a whole fleet. It's like...
But they had multiple sources behind them.
Yeah, it's hard talking about this without being spoilery, but...
But I think they started that in the prequels, because they put a lot of shit in there, like, Jedis can really do that?
Yeah, exactly, and I don't...
do that in the first 3.
Yeah.
I get that, and I understand there's different levels of power and stuff. That's fine, but certain things, and then there's even just like other things, not even just talking about like Jedi, but there's other things where even like the power that some of these ships have, where like Star Destroyers suddenly have enough power to like blow up planets, and I'm like, wait a minute. Wasn't the whole point of the fucking Death Star was that here's this weapon we have that can actually blow up planets?
But that was decades ago. They can evolve in their technology.
So these are supposed to be like upgraded Star Destroyers.
How many? Do you guys know how many decades the Death Star was away from like to this movie?
Well, yeah, it was supposed to be 30. A few. Yeah.
Okay.
Figure.
How the hell did they build all that stuff at the end in 30 years?
It's magic. It came out of the fucking earth. What do you want from it?
I want realistic science in a fucking Star Wars.
Well, Star Wars is not the place for realistic science, man. Star Wars is not.
At least realistic timelines. You cannot possibly construct that in 30, even 50 years.
The whole thing is that, okay.
It's the dark side, dude.
Right, and that's another thing that's bothered me since the prequels. Is that there's this thing that they do that apparently like Sith or whomever are real big about, is that for like years and years they are doing some sort of like secret covert army building thing, whether it was in Attack of the Clones when you find out when you find out that they're
I like the Caminos.
Attack of the Clones. Anyway, that they're making all this. They have this entire clone army that's been made that nobody knew about. And then in this one, you find out that the First Order has like all this, machinery and stuff that you didn't know about. Like, nah. That's another thing that's just been like a problem for me with Star Wars. There's a lot of things that get brought into this movie that, like I said, I feel like it would have benefited from having been introduced more, say, in the last movie, and then there would have been more time to develop it.
Yeah, okay.
There's a lot of information in this movie.
I would have bought that more if they said, yeah, we found these secret plans that they've been constructing this for years, and it's like, okay, I'll give you that one, but...
They did, didn't you hear that part?
Yes, I missed that, Megan.
It was in the second movie.
In any case, this movie also, there's references, obviously, to stuff that happened in the second movie, Rey meeting Luke and being trained by him. They make one reference to the battle on Crate and everything at the end of The Last Jedi. Poe makes a reference to it and stuff. In essence, this movie almost makes The Last Jedi almost completely unimportant. If you were to watch The Force Awakens and then watch this movie, watch Rise of Skywalker, all you would need to know is Luke Skywalker met and trained Rey in the ways of being a Jedi. Luke ended up dying or, becoming a Force ghost or whatever during the final battle, and that the rebellion got their ass kicked, more or less. They got away, but they got their ass kicked at the battle on Crate. That's it. That is literally all you need to know. If you know that, you never have to watch The Last Jedi ever again. There is no other real carryover.
Well, that's the only important parts of that movie, those 3 or 4 things you mentioned anyway, right?
But that's what I'm saying. But but that's a 2.5 hour movie, so that just kind of goes to show. And I'm not here just to badmouth on Last Jedi. There's some really awesome parts in Last Jedi, but I'm just saying, if you're one of those people that's like, oh, well, I don't want to go see this movie again until I watch Last Jedi another time or two, it's like, you don't really need to. You really don't need to. You definitely need to have seen Force Awakens, but Last Jedi, like I said, you just need to know those basic points, and you will go into this movie absolutely fine. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, because we probably wrap this up here in a minute, what are the things we've done a lot of debating, what are the things you really liked about the movie?
Space battles.
Yeah.
Of course.
Tons of that. This movie has more space battles in it than any other Star Wars movie.
And that's what I go to Star Wars for, is the space battles. I can kind of give a shit less about the character development, really. And rocket-boosted stormtroopers.
That was cool.
Oh my gosh.
Stormtroopers.
See, I don't remember them making that kind of noise when they die. Every one of them.
I know.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, there was some comedy even there, but it was cool to see the jet troopers. I really liked, it was cool that there was all new kinds of, you saw a lot of new kinds of troopers and uniforms and weapons, and the whole Knights of Ren thing, the Sith Knights kind of thing. They were a little underused, but what about you, Meg? What did you like about the movie?
Unlike Vito, I was digging on the character development. Their mysterious backstories and they're bickering back and forth. It just was reminiscent of the original 3. So.
Yeah.
C-3PO's comedy just fucking gets me every time. I love it.
Man, that one part where they just stop and look at him, and then he turned around and looked behind him. That was amazing.
Dude.
Love it.
I gotta explain that these two love the goofy humor in movies like Attack of the Clones and all the goofy C-3PO humor, whereas I was sitting there with my face in my hand going, oh, Jesus Christ.
It was amazing.
It was pretty good.
That's up to you whether you like that kind of humor. I liked the characters, like I said. I liked the character development. Honestly, my final feeling about this movie is just that it's got issues. It's got some problems. I understand where people, even where you guys and me, I understand criticisms of it. I don't really know what else JJ could have done with this movie given the situation. If he had had 2 more movies to be able to do this, then I think it could have been better. It could have been different. Had he not handed off The Last Jedi to Rian Johnson, I think this would be a whole different situation. But given that things happened the way they did, I don't really know what else he could have really done story-wise to wrap this up. I feel like there was closure, more or less, with some of the characters. Did it feel like at the end of this movie that they sort of, for this supposed to be this is the end and this is all you're going to hear from these characters or whatever, did it feel a little open-ended?
Yes, but I don't know if it's for another Star Wars movie. I mean, these people's lives aren't going to end. They're going to keep going. The 2 at the end were like, well, we'll figure out who you are together and stuff.
Right.
Okay, that could lead up to Disney Plus shit, is what I'm thinking.
It could be, because that's what I'm going to say, is because to our knowledge, we haven't heard anything about anything like that. We know they're going to do prequel shows, just like The Mandalorian. They're going to do an Obi-Wan prequel show. They're going to do a Cassian Andor from Rogue One prequel show. But I haven't heard anything about where it's going from here. The only thing I heard is that in a few years, we're going to get all new Star Wars. That's not supposed to have anything to do with this. And I'm like, I don't know. It just felt real open-ended. I'm like, I don't necessarily feel like this has got to be the end.
They're going to leave an avenue open. It's Disney. If they can make money off of it, they will.
Yeah, that's true.
And they might be putting fillers out there. If people go, hey, I really want to see more. That was pretty cool. Those two together. I kind of want to see more of that. I was like, all right, we'll give you that.
Yeah, well, they brought Lando Calrissian back.
I thought there was going to be a connection between Lando and that person you talked about. Like, we'll go find them together. I thought that
they were related.
Something.
Lando was getting busy there for a little bit. But.
Right. Yeah, I was expecting
it, so.
I was expecting Lando to turn and look at that girl and go, "Hello, what do we have here?" You know, like I was so waiting for something like that. I know that'd be total fan service, but it's Star Wars. So. I need to go see this movie again because there's so much to take in. Even if we were going to do a detailed review of this, man, oh my God.
See it again.
Yeah.
Get everything.
Yeah,
a few times maybe.
It'd take 2 hours just going through all this stuff because it's so much to take in. Overall, I give it a thumbs up. It's not like it was bad. There was definitely enough stuff in it that's entertaining that it's like, oh yeah, I'd gladly watch that again.
Yes.
And I like that it felt more like Force Awakens because I loved Force Awakens.
Yeah, knowing everything, I definitely give it a thumbs up. It passes my expectations.
Yeah, I guess I give it a thumbs up.
You're still hesitant.
Kind of a soft thumbs up, like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, go see it you'll have fun with it. I don't know, I don't think I would go out and see this movie again.
At the theater.
Yeah, and if it's on TV, yeah, maybe I'd sit down and watch it, I guess. But I'd rather go home and watch Attack of the Clones, to be honest with you.
I don't know about that one. I don't think I'm with you on that one, Vito.
That's a movie I'll just be home and be like, you know what? Yeah, I'll put that on. I guess I'll go grab my DVD and I'll watch it, you know?
I watched this one before Rogue One.
Wow. See, that I can't get behind at all, Megan. I'm sorry. Rogue One is pretty damn good.
I don't have anything else to say for the two of you, I swear to God. All right, on that note,
bombshell.
Let us know if you've seen this movie or if you're going to see, make sure you let us know. We want to hear from you. If you agree, don't agree, if you got other points that we missed, which I'm sure there was plenty, let us know. And on that note,
may the Force be with you.
McClunky.
You. And McClunky.